come here. I'm going to click. So I'm Duncan Boyne. I'm a Power BI consultant. I like to say that I'm a data storyteller. It's a very fashionable photo of me with a little name tag on, although I didn't get one today, so I didn't register here today. I run a Power Platform user group, like where I come from, in Norfolk, as well as the East of England Power Platform Summit. Community is probably one of my biggest focuses. In Norfolk, there is no user groups, no Power BI user groups. We've got companies with 10,000 people using Dynamics in the city. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. My background has mostly been the Microsoft stack. I've worked with that before, that I'm currently working with Stage Partner. I have a long history of working with some very random companies. I had a career in banking for a while. I worked for the Bank of Scotland Group. And then I contracted for a long time. I've worked for Red Bull Racing, Bank of America, Excellent Fairchild Group, a whole host of random things. But yeah, I work at a little Sage consultancy down the road now. See, it worked for me this time. I should really ask the question. Does anyone even know what Deneb is? This is fair. So literally no one knows what it is. Okay. But one, ish. Okay. Fair. I was hoping at least one more person, but that's fine. Who here has built a heat map in Power BI? Did you hate the experience? Like, was it like, how do you find that? As in, built it with a matrix, I presume? And it's a bunch of conditional formatting, and it's really problematic, and no one can keep up with it. And as soon as you ship it, they ask loads of changes, and you can't maintain it. Does that sound about right? Every time, yeah. Yeah. That's pretty much it. What Deneb is going to unlock from a perspective, me talking about it, Deneb can answer any question in Power BI and visualize it in any way you want it to. I'm a massive data nerd in the way that I got into data because of games like Football Manager and watching the news when elections happen. You know, like they have some amazing visuals for Parliament stuff like that. There's one that I'm going to show you later on, which is literally like the House of Commons where everyone sits, and it shows you where everyone is and what colour, because based on what party they're a part of. You also don't get that with native visuals in Power BI. So with Deneb, you can, near enough, do anything you really want to do with it. I'm going to try to persuade you to only use it limitedly because it's not friendly to everyone. So does anyone feel like they know every visual and they've used it every single time in Power BI and it feels like there's nothing left for them to try? Yeah? No? Fair enough. I should really caveat. I've been playing around with Power BI since it was called Crescent. That used to be an add-on in Excel. So I very long used Power BI and got bored of it very quickly. And then there are some cool new things that they bring out occasionally, like Azure Maps that everyone definitely likes. So I've been using custom visuals and the visuals marketplace for as long as you've been allowed to. But I still build 99% of my stuff native visuals because they work. People are used to them, and a bar chart is always going to be a bar chart. This technically is true for all of these, but you can your way around most things with Power BI. I really like reference labels. I like correct reference labels. I like being able to do mini tooltips without having to have a big tooltip and then writing custom code for it. I really like having the chance to conditionally format bars in my graph without having to write tons of measures and do lots of things when I can just put a drop down in the corner, which I'll also show you. And then what I also struggle with from a design perspective when it comes with native things, really small multiples. When you're dealing with very, very small numbers, 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, Power BI kind of falls off a little bit because, yes, if you're talking about big numbers and like variance is good, but when you're talking about things that really happen, like accidents on sites. Like, you want small numbers, but if one shows 1 and one shows 4, the one's going to look really tiny. It's actually quite significant, and I think Power BI strongly shows differences dramatically, and you can't really natively draw that back down without making a really squashed chart that doesn't read very well. Does anyone enjoy the formatting pane in Power BI? Does anyone actually feel like they understand everything you can do in the formatting pane?
Search bar is now a godsend.
Yeah, exactly. Formatting can be really difficult in Power BI from a, I was going to say, mental aspect. Like, there are a lot of very small boxes, and you're ticking things and going in things and then clicking on another visual, and it's all very cramped in Power BI. I've always felt that. That's probably how my brain works, to be honest. But I prefer being able to look at it from a broader spectrum, a bigger window. And the reason why that leads to anything is because in Deneb you can do it all slightly bigger and slightly more defined. Deneb is built on Vega. Vega is a coding language that was technically based loosely around JSON, and we will work that out in a minute. It was developed by a team at the University of Washington, and it's supposed to be a declarative language, so that you talk to it natively. The things are going to make sense. It's not a compiling language or anything like that. It is fairly simple. And I say that's fairly simple from someone who doesn't actually like coding. It's written in fairly plain enough English that most of things will make sense. There are some caveats to that. There are two types of things, Vega Lite and Vega, which adds slightly more difficult. Vega Lite is the recommended language when you're using Deneb. Yes, you can use Vega. Vega can go slightly deeper than Vega Lite can, but for any visual I've ever built, I've only ever needed to go to Vega Lite. Yes, so so with Deneb, and I'll show you some of them. So you write it in JSON, and it will compile it in front of you. So I'm just going to quickly hoping that half demo gods, because it's more of a show and tell than demo gods, will like me. Yay! Excuse the poor colour scheme on here, but I can explain that at the end. It'll make much more sense. These are just happen to be some Deneb visuals, and they'll make a little bit more sense when I go a little bit more show and tell. But I'm just going to quickly edit this one. And better, won't let me. Just drag it. You're writing a specification like this. It is in very much plain English. There is lots and lots of different guides out there on how to do this. But you are using plain English. You are telling the background what color it is. You are telling the width and height how big things are. You are making things fit. There's a couple of bits here, auto sizing and padding, which we can come back to, but it's written in plain English. Like, what text do you want? What subtitle do you want here? What color do you want for this? What font size do you want for this? You are making something that's completely customizable. And this is roughly 200 lines of stuff formatted. 150. You can tell it which font you want. You can tell it whatever you want. And you can tell it how to act. And I say that because you can make it responsive in the way that you want it to. So with Deneb, along with every other visual that we're going to see, everything's scalable for what you want it to. It's clickable. It's going to filter. You can tell it can do this. You can tell it not. You can't do this. I quite like it from a perspective of you can build better visual-based slices of this. You're going to make it a much more interactive UX experience for the end user by having visuals like this. And there's a reason for that. because we are inherently becoming a culture and a civilization that is touch-based. Like, we use these quite a lot, don't we? Everything is built so you can touch it and feel it. When given a list like this, like, oh, I understand this, but I want to touch this, I want to see what this does. Like, our brains are drawn to that now, much more than ever before. Building visuals like this, and there's lots of different ones I can show you, having a clickable visual that then becomes a slicer for your page and does your filtering for you is something that I think is really valuable. So I'm going to slightly come back. So formatting. Formatting is obviously in that native pane, which I just got rid of and I should have pointed out. If anyone's looked at that report, you can see mine was completely blank and broken because there is another good reason for that I'll tell you at the end. I prefer being able to be very strict with it. I like space on a report. I'm massive into the application of design work in Power BI. So I want it to be visually appealing. I want it to fit in with the rest of their suite. I want it to be a part of their culture, not just a report thrown on the screen. And spacing, padding, and everything feels difficult, actually, Power BI. So being able to tell it the exact pixel width I want to change it to means a lot to me. So you get to declare all that with Deneb. I'm now going to show you 5 different visuals that I built with Deneb that make sense as why you could use Deneb instead of using a native visual. So I didn't have the best data set for this one, and this one's slightly rushed. It's just a slope chart. Does anyone know what a slope chart is? Anyone even heard of one? Anyone done a maths degree? You're a good crowd. I like it. It's very interactive. No one's ever said yes to the maths degree bit. Don't worry. Like I ask it, and no one ever says yes. I also haven't got one, but I attempted to try one and didn't get very far because I had children instead. So I like slope charts. It can give you revenue in a slightly different way that a line chart will give you, in the way that you can change how categories sit, how you can have almost like a subsection of your line charts, which I can't visually show you very well here, and the green and the red are supposed to be better separated than that. I'm also massively colorblind, so every color you see here is very specific reason it's here. Should have covered that earlier. I use different systems because I am colorblind for doing charts and stuff, especially when customers give me a really lovely like branded thing, and it's like, I can't see any of your stuff, so I'm going to build it one way and get someone else to fill in the colors. And you can also do it by weighted points, so you can show that you've got how do I put it? The reason I first ever built one of these, and I'll give you a scenario. I worked with a massive company that bought other companies like they were going out of fashion. And they constantly were like, oh, we want to look at what their trend was, what this was. And they wanted it anchored and they wanted to show where it started. And instead of having a chart that started in 2009 and then all the data's up here and it's all spread out down there, they want to show anchor points and go through the visual of it. I tried faking some data to try and get to that, but slightly unsuccessful. So shows like that. But I will share one slightly better. But that one in particular, slope chart, is pretty much this. This is all you need to write for that whole thing. There are a little bit more at either end, which will tell you about colors, but you are really just telling it what you want on the X and Y fields and what colors are going to be based on. It's really quite simple. And you're telling it literally X and what the field is and the type. Like, are you going for quantitative? Are you going for nominal? Are you going for like a text? For a coding language and someone who doesn't like to code, myself, it's relatively simple. It is. I wrote it there and said it. We all write DAX, right? Please tell me people write DAX here. Like, generally. This is easier than DAX. I promise you, this is easier than DAX. And here's about 4 more. You kind of have seen some of this. This is a waffle chart, which I've taken a really bad screenshot of, apparently. Does anyone know what a waffle chart is? It is cute. Thank you. A waffle chart is a representation where you give there's a psychological reason for it. It's building blocks. As children, we're mostly taught counting numbers, very little building blocks. And then our imagination games and our construction games are built with building blocks. So you get to see like a visual like building of the revenue that you're taking or the number of people you've got. There's a reason it works in the way that you can take away and see how slightly different things work. Anyone recognise the top right one? Anyone like to look at crypto or stocks or anything? Look at candle charts or variance charts in that particular case. Ironically, that is probably one of the ones that I use most when working with bigger clients, because bigger clients genuinely like to look at their own stock price on their own website and have embedded things like this. I did a massive piece for Walgreens, where on their SharePoint intranet, which is throwing it back a little bit, they literally wanted to see fairly live data for their stock valuation. Didn't want to pay Bloomberg, so we built something like this. This is a bullet chart. Anyone used a bullet chart before? Yeah. It's just a lot more customizable. Thought I'd change some of those colors for that screenshot, but clearly I haven't. But underneath each of these, and I'll share all of this, are the little rules that are changed between each one. So with how, on the heat map, which I showed earlier, you're telling it how many gradient stops there are. So it depends how much color change you want between two colors. So if you've got really, how do I describe it? If you've got heavy data sets where it's lots of really big figures and lots of really little figures, you can use more steps, get more color contrast at either end. Or you can stop it down. Like if you know what your revenue should be and you want that as like the middle ground, and then just have red or green the other side and make it really stepped so you can see what good months are and what bad months are, you can do it that way. But it's extremely customizable. Would anyone actually want one of these in their report? Would anyone actually think like, I've got a use case for this? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the element of it.
I like the chart a lot. So one I would recommend the most is always going to be revenue heat map. That revenue heat map, not just for revenue. Like if anyone's ever done a report for an IT support team, having a heat map, because you can have split cells. You can have a heat map that shows when they get the most tickets in, when they close the most tickets, when their team takes the longest to answer the phone. There is so much you can do with a heat map that will give so much information so quickly without having to have a whole page on it. You can have it by sector. You can have it by so many different things. Heat map is the one I would recommend using in the most cases if you ever felt like you need a custom visual. The rest are nice to have and specific. The heat map can be more generalized, personally speaking. I dislike having to either use a bar chart or a clustered chart or using bar chart with a line chart. Bullet charts I've thought about and looked at for a very, very long time. This one, the colors aren't great. I'm not very great with doing colors because you can do so many different things with it. With that bullet, you can change where you're doing targets, if you're doing revenue targets, if you're doing closure rates. I did a piece for the NHS for the 111 call centres where they want us to know abandon rates and times on calls and stuff. So having like a visual target that isn't necessarily just a KPI, it's looking in your face with a number on it, like having it that way. So having a donut chart or a pie chart shows that. It's just a different way of showing targets for me for a bullet chart. Pardon me. And it's fairly simple. You can obviously do conditional formatting on it. You can give it different colors, but it is what it is. Deneb is obviously a custom one, but to integrate it is slightly different than you would do. Has anyone actually added a custom visual themselves, gone on it, add when back in preview you used to have to add preview features through that, so like any maps or anything like that? So Microsoft allow people who make custom visuals to get them certified and get them reviewed to make sure the code is safe, to make sure it's safe and compatible to use. So Deneb has been certified since I think 2022 now. It's made by a guy called Daniel. I'm going to get his name correct. I speak to him quite often. He lives in New Zealand. He also built a visual called HTML5 viewer, where you can build a visual in HTML if you know how to write HTML, which is also a more simple coding language than some of the others. You use CSS and do all sorts of.
I think he spoke.
What I use Deneb for and why I like these is to stop having to do janky things in Power BI. bookmarks are cool, but when you have to do 100 different bookmarks to give different views for people to see different things, and having it like, oh, we want this to be really responsive, and we want this view and that view, and then they ask for a change, you then have to change 100 different bookmarks. Like, Deneb can delete most of that because you can have drop downs in it. You can have a slicer built into the rest of your visual. Like, there's one I can show you where, like, on that heat map, you can do a drop down and you can pick the references going to. So go to revenue, it can go to number of sales, it can go to inventory stock. You can do all that in one visual rather than having a bookmark and changing that dynamically on the page or having separate pages for them. Being one visual just cuts down dev time. It doesn't surprise me. I don't know why I said that. Bookmarks, I've just gone over it. I knew I was going to bring it up. You can be very basic with your DAX when using Deneb. I like to keep measures very, very simple when using Deneb because you can do the rest in Deneb rather than doing it in DAX. Like I've written measures that are far too long for any person who ever has to review that after I've left a company, but I did anyway because it worked at the time. I try and strip most of that out now. I want things to be as easy for my not predecessor, successor. That's the one. I've done a lot of contracting. I've built a lot of things and left places, so I kind of try to make it as easy as possible to do. I would say, and this whole slide is a bit of a cue to me. Then it will feel custom and it will feel different and it'll feel weird until you get the wow moment from a customer end user, and then it will feel very natural. When I've been given the most positive feedback, or like, oh wow, I've never seen this before, or like that makes sense to me, was when I was working with teams that do come from a maths background that aren't looking at their textbooks, or if they're in accountancy and haven't looked at like bar chart or anything in a very long time. They want like proper scatter graphs, or they want deeper information. Or I've worked with banking in stock markets and stuff. They don't want out of the box stuff. They want to look at something that visually represents what they would also look at. Because if they go on Bloomberg, you're not going to bar chart on Bloomberg. You just won't. If you're looking like whoever, I think of another scenario, can't. But it's about bringing something that no one else has seen before in a way that they still understand what it means. Do not use Deneb. Don't use it. If you are the only person who understands it and who will ever understand it, if you're giving it to an end user in your company, do not use it. You are creating a silo of information that when that breaks and you're not there, the report is dead. That subject is dead. Deneb comes at a cost in a way that it needs to be shared internally and understood and maintainable. With anything we do in Power BI and in our general IT careers, is the next person should be able to understand it. We should be building reports where customers don't need to ask questions of it because it's in plain English and in front of them and it's their data and they should understand it. While I feel like Deneb is a very simple visual and the code behind it is simple, if you do not share that knowledge and do not give proper documentation and don't do it, you've built something that won't work for people. And that's something that I personally have failed at before. Like I've built stuff like, oh, this is really cool. And then when I hand it off to the team, it's like, oh, if we want to move that or change that, how do we do it? It's like, you can't. They could, theoretically, but they're then left without that support and without that thing. So I learned the hard way about using custom visuals that if you aren't willing to maintain it, you aren't willing to do the right documentation, you aren't willing to upskill those around you, it's going to fall off and not be useful. I love it, and you should teach other people about it if you learn it, but don't start using it until there's a number two person that knows how to use it. Has anyone used JSON for anything before? Yeah. Yeah. I actually learned JSON, ironically, from using Dynamics and doing things in the back end. But JSON, which is ironically, I love any name where it's actually a human's name and you're talking about it. Like talking to an Alexa, it's like, oh, have you heard about JSON? Oh, what does JSON do? No, not like that. You can start really small. Like you can just do a couple of lines of code and say, well, I want the containers this big and I want it to be blue. And then when you load Deneb, you're going to literally see a blue box. Like, ooh, works. and then you're going to put X field equals this. Oh, I've got an X field, and that tells me that's going to be revenue. And then you can build it out slowly and look at it from that. Learning by actually playing with it, and I'll show you again. So I push to, okay, get it. So as you're typing in here, and you do things, press the play button. And I'll show you, quite literally, straight away. And then there are a couple more boxes down here that I will quickly show off. It's going to give you the data which is actually inside of it. So you pick what fields you're doing, like in any other visual, like it will go into the data tab and you pick them. And it will give you a table view of what you're doing. So when you're thinking about it, you're like, why does this not look right? And then you look in data, it's like, I'm improperly, or I've not picked the right fields for that. It's there. There are some slightly more things you can do. You can be really strict with config and write more. That will then look at specification. Specification, you can write everything in this, but you do not need to touch config. I think I've only ever done it twice, so you don't need to. Settings, you get to pick between Vega and Vega Lite. I'm going to use SVG. Please don't use Canvas. Just please don't use Canvas, use SVG. Everything you're making in Deneb is going to produce an SVG image on top. You do not want to build into the Canvas. It does not work. And then you get to pick here what interactivity it has with the rest of your report, how it works. You can do cross-filtering. You can do how many data points limits you want on it, because if you tell it it can have infinite points, it will try to, and your report will never load. If you have customers who use mobile, do not use that. You will have to build twice if you're using customers that use Power BI on mobile. Which, does anyone actually have a customer that uses Power BI on mobile?
No.
No, good. Power BI on mobile is awful. I love Microsoft, but Power BI is awful. Accessibility can be really difficult, don't it? Really difficult. Screen readers. Colors, like I struggle enough as it is being colorblind. People who build custom visuals don't really think of colors very often. So you can build tooltips and you can build screen reading tooltips into JSON in plain English, and it'll read it correctly for screen readers and stuff. And the handoff risk, like I've gone over, you giving it to someone else and it not working. More not when to reach it. Here's 5 examples of what you could actually. I know, it kind of goes over what I've already said. Kind of got ahead of myself. Can someone maintain it? If they can, then yes. Is the accessibility an issue for this report? If it's not, go ahead. Do they primarily use desktop? Is the chart actually stable? Like, is that data good enough to keep that chart going for a while? Like, are you building something that changes so often that that visual will no longer work for it? And can you natively do it? If you can, you don't need to use this. I asked this question purely because, like, I've recently done it at the Parliament seats because I really enjoy doing that. If you could build any visual, like if you could build a heart where data comes out of each of the valves, or something visual like that, what would you build? Anyone got like I'd really like to see this.
Well, so I asked my colleague today, who's the Power BI guy, and he was talking about, bar charts, right? But quite often you want to overlay, like, say, these are the incidents of hospitalizations, and this is when COVID happened, or these are our sales, and this is when we did a campaign. Like an overlay over a bar chart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could do that with the bullet chart bit I went over earlier.
So you could do it native.
Technically, no. You can, but you don't want to.
Give me the demo answer.
Yeah, because you can make it literally point however you want it to do. You can have it as a hover. You can have a hover that goes into a big tooltip picture, or like interactive details. You can have, I haven't shown it in Deneb because it takes slightly longer to render. You can have a visual inside of a tooltip. So you can highlight over something, and then it'll give you a further drill down. Then you can look at a second visual, depending on how you want to see it. There are like so many different layers you can do it. But for like the events, like you can have like a histogram on top of the bar chart and work it through that. So you can see the data and then move it along the histogram, and that will show you the different data points. So if how I describe it is like, if this long TV is 10 years time, you can have it on 2018, and then you move it along and it will show you data for that year and that year. Move it on. That could be event based. So you could click on an event and it'll show you what the details of that event are, or where the impact was. So like your sales, and then COVID hit, and then however you do a lot. Probably too much. Anyone else on that one? Anyone else want to build something weird? What?
Dots. One is, let's say, your current right end, you have your assets and lots running, and your different colours to show that it's actually or is it very negative, not sensible. Or if it's growing, you have it starting with the smaller dots and you go in and flopping out. And then the different versions of the bots, it's kind of more like a bullet chart. So
Yes. And then you could do the dynamic dot shapes. I understand what you mean, like this. They scale with certain things. But yes, I like that. I want to see a visual example of it. Yes, you can put it like that.
before, and then was told people didn't know. They wanted like something dots and they just didn't.
Yeah. What we want to build and what customers want, that's not necessarily the same. I talked about the heart visual because I'm quite literally building that for a report. There's a team. Does anyone know who Synapse are? Synapse have built a wonderful report which has an interactive human body. You can touch it, click on it, and it will give you different data points, and you can drill in quite literally into the human body and go into different sections. They've done it for a action reporting. It's absolutely brilliant. I'm working on one with a heart where you can give it different. There's lots of interactive slices around it that are more charts than anything. To look at heart attack rates and things throughout the world, and it will show pumping through the heart. And then when you actually click on a blockage to say, oh, this is the reason for heart failure, it will actually show you visually. It's a bit of a beast of a project. You can literally do anything. Have I overrun? I like to talk.
Okay.
No, okay. I would like everyone to have a little go and take a bite, just to have a look at it. But I kind of want to give you a little bit of a head start. So there's two things. If you're on a Deneb website, there's hundreds of examples. There's lots of different people who give tutorials, lots of different templates you can use. My heat map one, I've literally got a guide on how to use that and how to implement it. But does anyone use Claude? Anyone like Claude? Anyone like ChatGPT and Codex? I have a Deneb skill where you can talk to it natively and it'll help you build one from scratch for your report. Which I'll give you the QR code for it in a bit. But what I will say, and this whole report is very badly coloured, and this is going to take slightly longer to load. These are all charts. Some of these formatting's really bad, and I wanted to show this for a reason. Because you can completely custom write anything, you can put things wherever you like. So you can literally put figures on top of lines. You can do. I'm hoping this is the one with Parliament chart. My Parliament chart, where I have not managed to put the text where I actually wanted to. This is all clickable. It's not going to click for me now. And there is a theme, a reason why everything's really blue. This is a daily revenue tracker, which is really lovely if I'd have coded it correctly. And there's a reason I haven't coded it correctly, and I will slightly come back to that in a sec. There's lots here. Unfortunately, this is a really in-depth heat map. This whole report I built without opening Power BI. Comes with a slight caveat. I do like Claude. I very much am into AI in the way that I like to talk about it and protect people from being too reliant on it. Every single thing on this report, including the DAX, the data modeling and everything, was done with Claude without opening Power BI once. Using TMDL, using Power BI, MCP, CLI, Figma MCP, which did do some background. Some of these have got containers on them and stuff. I wanted to prove a point to myself by using my own skill on Deneb and telling it, these are some of the visuals I'd like to see. It takes about an hour to build a whole report, and everything here is AI, which some of you might be scared of, some of you might think it's cool. Most of it didn't work when I opened it, as you can imagine. Ironically, Power BI CLI and Power BI MCP will let you tell it to put Deneb visuals on your report before you add the actual visual from the App Store, so it won't render. So you can put it as a placeholder, and then until you actually add the visual, it won't work. To actually add the visual, I said about this earlier. It's these three little dots here, and get more visuals, and it appears right there. But the reason why some of the data is bad and why some of these looked is because I wanted to look bad, because this is literally AI's rendition of what Deneb can look like and all the different ones that it can possibly do, which can be slightly more scary. Any questions about that? Anyone generally? No. Be safe with AI, people, please. Did you want a question? Yeah.
Is that something that exists in Deneb that you built on, make it reflect that, or is this you told it from the beginning? I want my dots to start here.
Oh, so you base it on the curve. So you're telling it the shape on the curve you want it to start on and where you want to start on. So basically, you're saying